Hey, today there's only one topic, iterator. So you may have briefly learned about this maybe in 2030 in Java. The way we do this in iPhone is very similar. So the programming part, I wouldn't worry too much for you. So the slides is there. I'm gonna do some illustration on the eStudio as well. But I think it's more important to talk about the design, motivation, why we need iterator. So I'm gonna bring to two design principles by the end of the class today. One is called information hiding. Okay. The second one is called code to the interface, not to the implementation. So these are the two principles hopefully you can take home today. I'm going to gradually mention that one by one. And after that, the design idea is clear. You can see the programming part very easily. I'll try to make lab number 3 relevant so you can practice the iterator. It's very useful, very practical. And then it's really important to get the motivation right and then try to see the design ideas. And everything else hopefully will be straightforward. Now let's have some discussion here. I'm going to show you iPhone Studio in just a moment to show you the programming part. I would like you to consider 3 classes. 3. So now the first 2 classes, partial view, okay, just enough for you to get an idea. Let's say we have one class called cart, like a shopping cart in Amazon or eBay, whenever you do some online order. Let's say in the shopping cart you have an array of order. Order is just another class type. Now you have another class called order, and the order has 2 features. Remember, we have one principle there, which was not in the lab test. It says that it doesn't matter what price and quantity might be implemented, either attributes or query. Remember what that principle is? Uniform access principle, thank you. Yes, very good. Okay. I thought about putting one question on that today, but I thought that may be too much. Anyway. Okay, uniform access principle. So now here we got price and quantity, which can be either attributes or queries. Okay, 2 classes so far. That's about the supplier. Now, let's now consider this client code over here. I'll guide you through it, don't worry. It's very simple to understand. So we have a class called shop. Let's say you're trying to shop somewhere, just call it shop. Okay, it can be a better name, but just for illustration. In the shop, we have one attribute there. Let's say one attribute, just cart, of type cart. You can see on the left-hand side, just shopping cart. And now we have one query over there, which is going to sum up the price and the quantity for every order. Apparently, to do this, we got to do a loop, because we have currently the cart.orders is an array. So we have to somehow use the array features to figure this out, right? So we can say from I is assigned to cart.orders.lower. So lower means the lower indices for the iPhone arrays. So far, you are quite used to the array indices being 1 up to and including count. But in general, iPhone allows you to do any lower or any upper. So it's a better design when you say cart.order.lower. Until it's larger than upper, and then we simply say result, which is of type integer, is going to be incremented by the price and quantity for each individual order. And then increment I. Okay? This works. It's correct. But being correct is not just enough. Otherwise, we wouldn't take the software design course, right? We want to make something that's more maintainable. Maintainability is really important because usually your software project would not just be fixed in the stone. You might be subject to many, many other future changes. You got to think about, if I try to make a change in the supplier side, is it going to affect the clients? For example, today I'm trying to use a Java library class, let's say math class. I'm calling the method called ABS, standing for absolute value. Let's say maybe 3 months from now, they decide to change the name of the feature, maybe to absolute rather than ABS. In that case, then that's going to cause my Java code not to compile. So that's not very convenient for me as a client. So now, from that perspective, can you see any drawback for this design over here, either from the supplier side or from the client side? Let's be critical here. Think about it. Do some, yes.
The supplier is in order to keep the tag price and quantity throughout the life cycle of the program.
Yes, that's all. So we only got 2 supplier classes. Yes. So are you trying to say, so what's bad about a supplier, or?
The feature price and quantity.
Why?
If the name tag is changed, then in the client, the loop will not iterate properly.
Why? Because you can see currently the way we run the loop is kind of dependent on the data structure for orders, right? But not really the price and quantity. You can see the price and quantity is only called within the body of the loop, right? Okay, you're getting there, okay? Guys, any other thoughts? I can give you a little bit hints. Let's say we are the supplier. We decided that array is not that efficient. Let's choose another primitive, another fundamental data structure. Oh, you want to say something before I give you hints? Yes, go ahead. Okay, exactly. Okay, very good. That's exactly the point. Let me just rephrase that a little bit. Let's say we are the supplier. Somehow, for us, not only that we want the code to be correct, that's the number one priority, but second priority is we want the code to be efficient, and somehow we have to adapt this maybe throughout the life cycle of our projects. In this case, let's say somehow we decide array is not efficient enough, so we want to have a link structure. In this case, let's say I change the red part over there to be linked list of order. In this case, are we going to affect the client code or not? We are, right? Can you just get an idea? I'm going to show you iFlow Studio as well to make it more vivid. Can you see, give me at least one line that's going to go wrong? Which line? From part, maybe? You can see over there, you can see car.orders are lower. Lower is an array-specific feature, which means if you change the type of orders to be linked list, this feature is no longer applicable. Similarly for upper. And also you can see, right, that's about it for now, okay? So follow the point so far. So the point is, and also you can see that in the class card, we didn't really somehow hide the orders. So somehow you can see array is the implementation feature, but we didn't really hide it, okay? So that's another issue here, okay? Okay, the main issue is if we try to change from array into linked list, then it might change the way clients should use their code. So their code wouldn't just compile, okay? That's really bad. Okay, let me illustrate to you very quickly. And then the iFlow compiler also tells us about this problem here. Okay, I already got some starter code for you. I'll make it available after class today. So let me just review very quickly. So we have the card class over here. You can see that we have the orders, array of order. And we have also another feature here. I just defined that, okay? Just called add order with some price, with some quantity. And let's just go to another class called shop. That's the clients. If you go to the shop class over here, you can see that over here, we really depends on the feature of array, which is lower and upper. Let's just do one thing. So this is clients, this is supplier. Now we are the supplier. If I decide to change, let's say from linked list, oops, let's say that. It's a valid type. If I do that and try to compile everything together, you can see something has been affected. Okay, if you look at the feature of the errors over here, let's try to, it's very informative. First of all, it tells us unknown identifier upper, and you can see the error, a change on the supplier side causes an error on the client side because upper is referred to in the checkout feature, right, as we have seen. The lower upper is one problem there, and also make empty, for example. In the shop, in the card over here, we used to say make empty for the orders to make some empty array, right? So you can see just making a change somewhere, you want to make that change very quiet. You don't want the change to affect anybody else. Okay? That's something to do with information hiding, which I'll get into. Okay, so now there's got to be something we should do. But for now, I'll just write something here to tell you what you should do. For example, so now changing this from array to linked list will cause the clients, which is shop code, not to compile anymore. So that's really the issue. Okay, let me just change that back to array. So we want a better way to do this. You don't want to say every time if I change from array into linked list, we want the client to change their code. And tomorrow I might change from linked list into hash table. They gotta change their code again. That's not good. We're gonna say every time we change something from the supplier side, it should be done secretly. It shouldn't affect the functionality that's supported to the client at all. Okay, that's kind of the issue. Okay, so now how should we deal with it? There's a pattern called Iterator Pattern. Okay, so now let me just go back to the slides. So this is the diagram. I'm gonna show you on the iPad as well. So instead of going to the code right away, the coding itself is not too difficult. You just gotta get used to some syntax. But I'm going to, on the iPad, I'm gonna explain to you one by one what's the ingredients for the iterator pattern. Okay, let's see that. Okay. Okay, so this is the diagram here. Okay, I'll just guide you through different parts. First of all, this is the cluster for the clients. So that's the client side. And this is the cluster for the supplier. That's the supplier side. Okay? Let's now think about the clients. In the iterated design, the most important thing to note is this line over here. You can see that we used to say, I would just say container iterable. Remember, we used to say order is of type array of order, but now we don't have array anymore. We simply have a new type, which is called iterable. Okay? That's the number one thing to note on the client side. To be brief, array is a type of iterable. Linked list is also a type of iterable. For any class you're going to design on your own, you can also make them iterable. So iterable is more like an interface. So now we are trying to program for the client side. From the client side, they are trying to program against interface, in this case, iterable. Rather than program. In this case, that will be array and linked list. Okay, that's a crucial difference from the client side. We're trying to program against iterable rather than array or linked list, because every time you change from array into linked list, the interfaces change. But for iterable, there's only one uniform interface you have to follow as a client. Okay? I will talk about how you can use iterable as a client. That's actually very useful. You actually use the cross keyword that you have been used quite a bit up to now. Okay? So now let's talk about a supplier, because it might be that I will give you some bad design that looks like the motivating example, and then I will ask you to refactor that design using iterable, using the iterator pattern. Okay? Let's see how we can do that. Let's see the critical classes over here. First of all, let's use this one. There's an interface called iterable. That one is called deferred class. So you have encountered this word quite a bit up to now. So deferred. Deferred class in IFO basically just the same as abstract class in Java. Deferred class simply means at least one of the features in the class is not implemented. That means you cannot create an instance directly out of that class. Okay? Just the same rule as abstract class in Java. Okay? It's not something new, so I wouldn't talk too much about it. Okay, over here. So we have a class called Iterable over here, and there's only one single feature we have to support, which is called NewCursor. Okay? So now I will just write it here. So this feature here is called NewCursor. And that's of type iteration cursor. Iteration cursor. There's only one feature you have to support if you inherit from iterable. Okay? For example, we're going to see that to really resolve the problem for the motivating example, we can let the card class inherit from iterable. That's what we can do. I'll show you that. Okay? So that's the only feature you have to support. Okay? We already have many library classes, so these are the library classes. Library classes over there that are directly iterable, which means you can just reuse the iteration cursor they support. Okay? So library classes over here, which means they are iteration cursor already implemented. Already implemented. Okay, you can just reuse them directly. That's the very lucky case. However, in some cases, you may not have the iteration cursor directly available to you because you might have some very customized data structure that you are defining. In that case, you have to make you make your class iterable, and you got to define some iteration cursor yourself. Okay, so that's the tricky part. Okay, I will highlight that to you. That's over here. So this part over here, okay, this part here, this is the case where the iteration cursor is not directly supported. So that adds some complication to the iterator pattern, which means on the left-hand side over here, this is the lucky case, the pink one. That's a lucky case. I'll just call it lucky. We'll see how lucky it can be. Lucky case because you're using array, only array is iterable. So array definitely has implemented the iteration cursor feature. You can just use it directly. Very simple. The blue case is more labor-intensive case. You have to create your own classes to really implement the iteration cursor. In that case, you have to implement 3 specific features. So I'm going to write it out. So it's actually mentioned over here. It's called after item and fourth. Okay, actually four features. Okay, I'm going to mention that over here. So these, sorry about that. So these features are over here. So you have to implement after item, fourth, and start. So these are the 4 features you have to implement for your own iteration cursor class. And these 4 features should also seem familiar to you, right? That they seem to be the interface for linked list. Okay? Any questions until now? So that's kind of the overview for the iterator pattern. Okay? We'll get to the client part in just a moment. We'll see that in a moment. Okay? But I want you to get clear about the supplier part. I haven't shown you any code yet. I just want to present to you the design. Okay? And now, one more thing to mention, you can see the supplier side is rather sophisticated. From the client side, it's very simple from this respect. You can see that from the clients, we simply have a client-supplier relationship, which means when the client is trying to make use of your iterator pattern, they simply declare certain attributes of type iterable. That's all they do. Okay? And then the way they use the iterable objects is uniformed. They don't have to change from array into linked list or from linked list to hash table. Just the interface for hash table. Just the interface for iterable. Okay. Okay, any questions about conceptual design before I go to code? Hopefully the code will complement your understanding. Of course, again, for the iterator pattern, there'll be several expectations for you. Hopefully, first of all, you should understand the design, and then you should understand the 2 cases, the lucky case and the unlucky case. Okay? And then you should also know how to use an iterable as a client. So these are the several things you should know. And for lab number 3, I will try to make you both the clients and the supplier for the iterator pattern, so you can practice both sides. It's actually quite a practical pattern. Yep. Okay. Yes.
So the way to distinguish the lucky case and the unlucky case for the
Yeah.
with the brackets, right?
The square. Oh, you know what? Let me mention something. So when I say lucky and unlucky, I'm being very informal. I'm just trying to say, to implement the iterator as a supplier, sometimes you may have to do very little work. That's lucky. Sometimes you might have to do quite a bit of work. That's unlucky case. Has nothing to do with the boxes, the shape. Nothing to do with here. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I can revisit this diagram in a bit, but let's see the code, and then hopefully things will be clear. Yeah. Okay, good, good. So first of all, you can see the dashed line over here. You see the one I highlighted yellow here. That's a cluster, like a packages, right? And then let's take one box for example. We got two different boxes here. Okay, let me first of all, let's say for this one here, this box over here, it shows the interface for the deferred class Iterable. It's more like a detailed view. It shows you the description and the feature signature, etc. Okay? On the other hand, this oval circle over here, that's the so-called compact view for your classes. So now remember for your lab number 2, so for your bond diagram, I said the only constraint is you have to cram everything into one single page. In that case, you might find yourself convenient to use many the oval boxes, right? When you don't want to show many details. But when you really want to show the detail for the critical classes, use the this box over here, right? So that's the difference. Yeah. Any questions about the diagram before I move on? Yes. You mean star and etc. Okay, that's very good. Thank you. Let me just use a different page to show you. Very good. Let's summarize this a little bit. Add a page below. So there are basically 2 different classes in iPhone. Okay. So let's just say this. For example, I say plus I got star. For example, I say iterable over here, plus I can say array. So plus simply means it's effective. I'll explain effective in just a moment. Effective, and star means deferred. So these are IFO terms, the green one. The IFO, they call it effective versus deferred. What about Java? I believe in Java there, for the star, you call it abstract. Abstract simply means you cannot create objects directly from the class. So you can have some subclasses of them, okay? Abstract, which means you got at least one method in the class that's not implemented, okay? And in the plus, I think it's simply called concrete or non-abstract. Okay? For example, in your lab number 2, can you think of any class that's actually deferred? Slot status, very good. And remember that one is a superclass for example, the available slots, occupied slot, those are effective, right? Yeah, the concept is not really new, just some new notation you can get used to. Okay, any more questions? Okay, good. Let's see some coding, okay? I will go over some slides about the general steps you have to follow, and then I will show you also in the iPhone Studio, okay? And then in one single slide, I'm going to summarize the different cases, the lucky case and the unlucky case. First of all, there is a principle that's one of the most important principles for this course. It's called information hiding. We as a supplier, we want to hide something from the clients. So what do we want to hide? We want to hide about our implementation decisions, which means as far as our clients are concerned, they don't care if the data structure that we are using. If we use array, hash table, or any our customized class or data structure, they don't care. That's something we should really hide from the clients. Okay, so so that means every time when we call them the implementation secrets. Okay, there's another term over here. I will just mention that. It's called implementation secrets. And they should be hidden. And of course, in Java term, you just make them private. In iPhone, just export them to none, the same idea. But you really want to know why we want to hide them, right? Let's say in the motivating example, we didn't actually hide the array class, the array feature. In that case, if we didn't hide it, the client can just get access to it. And once they get access to it, they're going to call the lower, upper, make empty, etc. As soon as we change from array into another data structure, the client will suffer. The code wouldn't compile anymore, right? That's kind of the logic. So now, for implementation secret, I'll just mention one idea over here. For example, data structure. You can think about one aspect is data structure. Another one, let's say either array or linked list. And also algorithm. Let's say algorithm, let's say you're trying to sort something for your clients. As far as they're concerned, they don't care what kind of sorting algorithm you're using. Use selection sort, merge sort, heap sort, they don't care. That's not their concern. Okay? So you're trying to hide some implementation secrets from them. It's called information hiding. Every time when you try to change the data structure or change the algorithm of your design, the client should not be aware of that, and they should not be affected either by your decision. Okay? Okay, information hiding. Okay, now how do we do the iterator pattern from the supplier side? There are several steps. At least the steps are not really difficult. First of all, whatever class you want to support the iterator pattern, you can let it inherit from Iterable. That's step number one. For example, the card class. I will show you in just a moment. Let's mention the steps first on the slides. You can inherit that from Iterable. Okay? The Iterable class is of type just generic, G. Okay? And then, once you inherit from this particular class over here, remember in the diagram, I want to draw your attention again to it. If you see the diagram over here, you can see that there was only one single feature in the Iterable, which is called NewCursor. You'll see that more clearly when you see your slides. It's called NewCursor, okay, over here. That's the only feature you have to support, NewCursor, okay? But how do we support it? So there are two cases. Either you support it in the lucky case or you support it in the unlucky case, either way. Okay. So now let's see that. The NewCursor there. And now let's say if somehow the internal data structure you're using, let's say a single array, in that case you're lucky because array is itself iterable. So it must have already implemented the iteration cursor because every library class that is iterable should have implemented the iteration cursor feature. Okay? That's a lucky case. And the unlucky case is, let's say somehow the way you organize your data structure does not support the iteration cursor right away. For example, we'll see one example where you have two arrays. Let's say you got one array and another array as collectively as a data structure for your class. In that case, you don't really have an iteration cursor feature defined right away on two arrays. You don't. You only have the iteration cursor on one single array, but not two. In that case, you have to somehow wrap it around into another class. That's the complicated case. I'll show it to you. Okay? In that case, you have to create some class yourself. For example, my iteration cursor. And then once you have done that, you have to support different features, like after item and forth. Okay? So these are the features you have to support. So two cases, 2.1 and 2.2. Let's see 2.1 first. 2.1 is very easy. Okay, 2.2 requires a little bit of coding, which I will show you as well. In general, any question about the steps in general? There are only two steps, only two. And step number two, there can be two cases. Okay? Okay, if no questions, then I will start with the lucky case for you. Okay, that one's very easy. Okay, let's go to iPhone Studio over here. And then we want to support some iteration for the card class, right? That's one of the supplier classes. So now what we will do, first of all, we're going to make over here, you know what? I think to make it better, so you can see I deliberately just named two clusters. One is called bad, the bad design. The other one is called good design. Okay? Let me just do some renaming very quickly because you cannot have duplicate names in the projects. So I'll just rename this to be bad, just for now. Okay, I would say the bad card. So when you see bad, you see that that's not implementing the iteration pattern. Okay, bad card and then bad order. And then I'll just add more class. Bad order. And then I'm going to have also bad shop. Okay, so I've got three classes over here. And then what I will do is, to save a little bit of time, I'm going to go to my desktop over here. And then iterator. Okay, I think that's fine. Okay, so now let me add 3 classes over here very quickly. So now I'm gonna say, so add a new class, cart. So this is gonna be the cart class. And then I have another one, order. I'll do that as well. And then new class, order. Okay, paste that. And that's the order class. Okay, one more. And then I'll do the shop class as well. Okay, let me just copy that. And then I'll add it too. Okay, that's a shop class. Okay, now everything should compile. Okay, good. So now I'm going to keep the bad design over there for you so you can still review it to see why it is bad. I can review the different bits and pieces for the bad design. Now let's see how we can change that so that it becomes a good design. Let's see how the steps are going to evolve. First of all, don't worry about the bad design anymore. The good design. Let's go to the cart class over here, first of all. Now, step number 1, we're going to implement the iterator pattern. Step number 1 is we're going to inherit this class from Iterable. Okay? So that's what we're going to do. Inherit from Iterable. So now, what should we put over here? Okay? So now, in some way, we are trying to, if you simply say G, for example, okay, the G here doesn't make any sense because G here, remember what we said in the generic class lecture. We said that whenever you want to actually instantiate some generic parameter, you have to give some concrete class that is already known. In this case, if you want to iterate through a card, what's the individual elements in the card you want to iterate through? Well, it's something called order, right? Remember what we had before. We say that a card simply contains a list of orders. Now we want to somehow convert the card into some iterable of something. And that something should be just the order. Okay? Let me draw some conceptual picture for you because you have to know how to make the decision. Okay? How do we decide? Okay? This is really also critical. Okay, let's now try to draw some idea over here. Okay, let's see. We used to have the class. Sorry, it's really bad writing. So we have class, and then we have cart. And then we have end over here. The feature we had before was called orders, which is an array of order. That's what we used to have in the bad design. Now let's think about how does the card look like at the runtime. Okay, so now at the runtime you might have some card. I'll just say C. Okay, it points to some runtime objects of type card over here, and then the orders is simply one of the attributes. Okay. And then the orders at the moment is going to point to some array of order, right, at the runtime. So it's going to point to some array like this. That's how you draw an array. And each slot is going to contain the reference to some order objects, right? For example, this can be to some order objects over here, order, and then we have price and quantity. For example, $100 and 5. Okay, that's how the runtime structure look like. So now, what you used to say is something like this. You can say C.orders, and then you can say at position 0. In this case, it will give you this particular order, right? Now, if I want to convert the card class into an iterable class, we're going to think about what stuff I'm going to iterate through. In this case, because we know that the card class has a list of orders. Of course, we're going to iterate through a list of orders, but just that the way we're going to iterate through them is going to be a little bit different. Okay? So now we can simply, that's the order over here. Okay? So now what we would say is, we're going to say inherits iterable, and then over here we're going to put order. Right? That's simply because we know that the card at the runtime is going to refer to an array of orders in the bad design. Now, the collection of stuff that we're going to store will be the same, but now we have to make sure that when the clients want to use the iterable, they can still retrieve the order one by one. Okay? I'll draw another picture in just a moment, but hopefully that's good for now. Any questions about how we chose the order over here? Right? Yes? So say it again?
The price of the whole card or just for each item?
Just for each order. So each order might say, let's say you have, if you say I got $100 and quantity 5, that means you got 5 things, which one of them is $100. So you got to calculate 5 times 100. It's very naive, just for illustration. Okay, let's go back here. So what I will put here is just order, iterable. And now, if I try to compile over here, and you have exactly one error there in the iPhone Studio. Let's try to read the error message there. If you expand the error message there, this is what it tells you. It tells you that you inherit from the card class, you inherit from the deferred class called iterable over here. Okay, iterable, and then there's one feature you have not defined yet, you have not implemented yet, which is NewCursor. So that's exactly from the diagram. Let's see again the diagram. Okay? If you go back to the diagram over here, you can see that when you try to inherit from the iterable class, the only feature you have to implement is called iteration cursor. That's the only one. But we haven't done that yet. We're going to do it now. Once it is implemented, we are done. Okay? Let's go back. So the only thing I got to do is I want to do iteration cursor. Okay? Feature inherited from iterable of order. Okay, so this is the only feature we have to implement in order to support. So we can say iteration cursor. Now again, we have to pass a type. Okay, so now in this case, you can see that I'll just read it to you. Over here, it says, okay, sorry, it's called NewCursor. Beg your pardon. It's called NewCursor. That's the only feature we had to support. It's called iteration cursor. Okay, that's a class. And then again, we had to pass a type of the item. In this case, we just be consistent with the iterable. So you can put order here and let's compile. But we haven't implemented that yet. So we're going to do it. Okay, so far we're just on the track of trying to implement the iterator pattern. So now how do we do that? You will see that it's incredibly simple. Because array is already an iterable, we can just reuse its NewCursor feature. Okay, that's what we can do. Okay, so we can simply say, remember we got orders over here, we can say orders dot, so let me just say, this is a query. So we can say the return value is going to be assigned to orders dot iteration cursor, NewCursor, keep forgetting, NewCursor. Okay. Let's see what we got. I think maybe this is order. Okay, I got to change that. Okay, everything compiled. Okay, let me summarize before I take questions. That's the easy case, lucky case, okay? First of all, we change the bad design into the good design by doing, first of all, I want to say the card inherits from Iterable. And the Iterable is a generic class. If you want to use it, you better give some type to it for the G. In this case, because we know that from the diagram I just drew, every card has an array of orders. That's the collection of stuff we would like the client to iterate through. That's why we choose order. In some way, order is simply consistent with the order over here, just consistent. Okay? Which means every time if the client wants to iterate through a card, they will every time they will get some information from that, each time just an order. Okay? And then once you inherit from the iterable over here, the only feature you have to implement is called NewCursor. And this is of type iteration cursor. And in which case you also give a type. Let's just give consistent type, just order. After that, you can say the simple case, since we are only using an array data structure, that's a library class, which is itself also iterable. You can go to the array class and check it out. It's also iterable. In that case, I can simply reuse the NewCursor feature from array. I don't have to implement it myself. I can just reuse it. Okay? You can see I can simply say result, you just assign to orders.NewCursor. And then I'm done. That's about the supplier side. Any questions? Okay, hopefully, well, just any questions you like. Anywhere you got confused, or you maybe need some weekend to study, right? Questions? Go ahead. Yes, you know what? Let me just finish one more step before I take your questions. So one more thing that we have to do is this. Before I compile, I'm going to show you one thing here. So now, you might be wondering, but now the clients, since the order remains public, so the client can still get access to orders, right? So now, what I should have done, what I should do now is to say this is hidden. So now you can see after this design here, this is now is complete from the supplier side. Because we say that the clients can no longer access the array orders anymore. They cannot. They can only try to access the card as an iterable. And I'm going to show you how they can do that. Okay? I'll show you in just a moment. Any questions on the supplier side before I show you the client side? Okay? Guys, any questions? No? Yes? Okay, let's see how we change the client side. Okay? Let's try to compile over here. Okay? And now I want to go back to the shop class over here, and let's change something here. So this should be card, not bad card. Okay, so now we are in the good design. Okay, make sure I'm good over here. So now let's go to the shop. As soon as I say this is a card, not a bad card. If I do that, I do have some compilation error. This is expected because they used to get access to the array directly, but now the array has been made private, so we don't have access to the array anymore. So that's something we're going to fix. Okay? So now you can see the orders is actually exported to none. It's not exported to the card. To the shop, not anymore. So now, it's incredibly easy how we can change the loop. Incredibly easy. Let's use our friend. You got two alternatives. I'll show you both. Okay? I'll show you the more familiar loop, like a from until loop. Okay? I'll show you both. First of all, we have cursor, iteration cursor of type order. Let me declare a local variable here. So now, because I know that card has been made iterable, so now I can use it in I can simply call the NewCursor feature from there. Okay, so now let's do this. From cursor is assigned to card.NewCursor. Okay, and then I can say until cursor.after. After means it goes off the boundary, right? We're just going from left to right. And then you can also say cursor.start. Oh, actually, that'll be enough. Okay, we got a new cursor over there, and then after, until after. And then we can say that cursor dot fourth, which means move one position further from left to right. Okay? Then you can see the diagram from the syntax slide. I can show you the link structure. Okay? So now we don't have to use this particular notation anymore. What we can do simply is cursor.item.price. Okay? I will draw some diagram in just a moment. And I will just change to a new line. And then I can say cursor.item.quantity. Like that. Okay? That's the new client. You might be wondering, I'll draw a picture in just a moment. You might be wondering, why is this better than before? Now, question here. From the supplier side, now if I decide to change the private attributes from array into linked list, am I going to affect the clients anymore? Let's verify that, and I will draw you a diagram. Okay, let's try that. That's a very important point to illustrate why the good design is better. Now let's try the following. You can see that at the moment, I have the orders being an array. Let's say I'm not happy with it. I change that into linked list of order. I will have some compilation error once I hit compile, but I can notice that all the compilation errors are only on the supplier side, which means as long as I fix on myself, the clients will not be affected. Okay? Let's try that. Let's see what's to be fixed. Okay, first of all, since we changed that, so we are still in the cart class, it's still the supplier. So we just don't have to make empty in the linked list, just change that, right? Just make. Just a different feature. Okay? Change that, and also, you don't have anything called force in the linked list, you just have something called extend. Okay? You know what I should do for you? I'll just comment that out, that's for the array. And then I'll put this back, create orders.make empty, so you can compare. So now for the linked list, we can simply say orders.extend. And then new order. Okay? Almost there. Oh, we are done. You see, what have we changed? You can see after we changed the orders from array into linked list, the only things we changed was anything within the same supplier. What we used to do in terms of the array, like a force or make empty, we just changed them to the corresponding features in the linked list. That's what we did on the supplier side. We never changed the clients anymore. And now, question for you. Once we have changed that, what did this line mean? When we say orders.NewCursor. Now, what kind of NewCursor are we getting back? Are we getting back the NewCursor from array still, or the NewCursor from linked list? Linked list, right? Because now the type of the order has been changed from array into linked list. Linked list itself is also iterable, so we can simply just reuse it. Okay? Yep. Linked list is also an iterable so we can also make use of its new cursor feature. Okay, so far you can see that in the good design, whatever changes that we want to make on the supplier side, it's not going to affect the client side at all. Okay, we only have to fix the supplier side only. That's why it's better. Okay. Questions? Before I draw some diagram to you. Okay. I'm going to draw some diagram here. Let's see how things are working. Okay. Once you understand this, hopefully that's going to be much better. Let's think about this diagram here. Okay. Let's start from the supplier side. Okay. Now, I'm going to draw something like this. So we have some cart over here. So this is a cart objects. And then One of it, I'm just going to draw conceptually. So it has two features that we care. One is called the orders, and that one is hidden. And we also got NewCursor. That one is public. Okay, orders and NewCursor. So since it's private, I'm going to draw in gray, so somehow it's almost hidden. Okay, so the new card.orders is an array that's actually hidden, so it's something like this. It's like a hidden array. Okay, and then so let's say we got different order over here, 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. And the actual object it is storing is, so we have some order over here. I'll just draw two orders for you. So we got price, maybe $20, quantity, maybe 4. And also we have another order class. And we also get price, and also we get quantity. And then let's say 40 and then 3, something like that. Okay, so far so good. You can see that this part here is completely hidden. So this part is just hidden. So now, how does the NewCursor work? This is how it works. I'm going to use green for public. Okay, the NewCursor is going to return some object over here called iteration cursor. Iteration cursor over here, and the iteration cursor has the different feature that is supported. It has the item, after, and also forth. So these are the only features that the clients can call, right? So you can think about, we somehow wrap around this hidden feature here, and we try to access it using the iteration cursor. That's what we are doing. Okay? So now, what if the client changes from array into linked list? Okay, I'm going to draw that in red. Now, let's say we have a change. Change on supplier over here. Let's see what's going to be changed. Change on supplier, let's say from array into linked list. In this case, what we will do is, we're only going to change the hidden part. So it's going to be something like this. It's going to be some linked structure like this. Like that. And then it's still going to point to the order in a similar way. However, the way that the clients can access the structure is still encapsulated within this iteration cursor. Right? Still the same. Doesn't matter how the internal structure changes from array into linked list. Okay, any questions? Okay, let me make one more remark on the diagram. So this is the only thing this is the only way for clients to access the cart items. The green part is the only way. The gray part, which is hidden, can be linked list, can be array, can be anything. As soon as you change that, just change the NewCursor feature. Once you change that, everything will just work seamlessly. Okay, any questions on this? Are we okay? Yeah, it's kind of the simpler case, right? Let's see the more complicated cases. Okay. For the more complicated cases, I will just show you some slides and code, give some idea, and then there's something hopefully you will try for lab number 3. Well, whatever code I show in the slides, you can feel free to use it. Okay. Guys, really? No questions? Okay. Very good. Okay, now, so that's exactly what I have shown. So that's also summarizing the slide. That's a luckier case, easy case. Okay, I can skip that. So now, let's talk about the unlucky case. For the unlucky case, that means we have some data structure which does not have the iteration new cursor supported directly. In that case, we got to create a cursor ourselves. Okay, how do we do that? Okay, I'll give you some big picture. Okay, first of all, let's say we have a new class called generic book. If you have been following the tutorial series on generic book, this one shouldn't be too strange to you. Okay, let's say we have a generic book of type G, which means G can be string, can be account, can be birthday, can be names, can be anything. Okay, so now this is something that's a little bit tricky here. Okay, so now let me show you the data structure first before I get to this part. We used to get iterable of order. That's what we used to get. But now there's something called tuple, which you're also supposed to know in iPhone. Okay, but I'll show you why tuple can be useful in just a minute. So now, so let's say we are trying to hide the data structure under the hood. So now you can see that the data structure is no longer just a single array. So we have two arrays over here. Let's say if you're trying to implement a birthday book, which means you got name into birthday. For example, Alan, October 13, Mark, November 29th, something like that, right? So you got two different values to be stored. Each one of them, you store the names into one array, the records into another array. We got two arrays. So now the thing is, if I say this class over here inherits from iterable, but now which new cursor should I return from which array? If I simply say names.newCursor, that's not right. You're only iterating through the name. If you say records.newCursor, it only allows you to iterate through only the record. No, that's not good. We want to iterate through both. So conceptually, this is what you should think about. So having this diagram in mind, let's see what that's the case we want to pay attention to. Okay. So now let's say we got a different one. Let's say B. Let's say birthday book. So we have book over here, and then we have two attributes over there that are hidden. So we have names, and we have also records. Okay, so we got two arrays, and both of them are hidden. Okay, you can see we got one array over here, we got another array over here. Okay, so let's say, for example, here we can say Alan over here. I would say October 13th, and we also get, let's say, Mark, maybe November 23rd. Okay, just two records. Okay, so let's review what we learned from the previous diagram. What we really want to do is to somehow encapsulate this and then have some public access to it somehow. But how do we do that? So the way we do that is by saying that, so we want to have some new cursor feature. I'll put in a different color. New cursor. And somehow this is going to point to some new cursor feature that is public, right? So that's iteration cursor. And then over there we got item, we got forth, we got after. And then somehow it allows us to get access to these two arrays one by one. Now, each time when I'm trying to access a particular record and name pair, what do I mean? So let's say, for example, this is one. Alan and October 13, they should belong to the same pair, right? So I should not just iterate through Alan and Mark, just the names, or neither should I only access through the October 13 or November 23rd, just the birthday. I should access them both at the same time, okay? So now what I want to write down is over here. Each time during the iteration, we retrieve a name record pair. Rather than just name or rather than just record itself, it's actually the pair. Okay? So the first time we're going to see Alan and October 13. The second time we're going to see Mark and November 20th. 23rd. And then the next time, also this. You can see that there is no really supported feature for iteration cursor which will go across two arrays. There's no such thing. There's only an iteration cursor for one array. That's a tricky bit. So that's what I said, this is the unlucky case. So what we got to do is, we have to somehow create this for, by ourselves. Okay? It's not too bad if you understand the concept. Any questions on this diagram? You should really compare this one here with this one here. In the previous one, there's only a single array or a single linked list. We can use the NewCursor feature directly. On the other hand, in this new diagram here, we have two arrays in parallel. In that case, you cannot just call the NewCursor feature on either one of them. You gotta sort of combine them together. Now, how do we combine them together? Let's go back to the slides and I'll show you. So what we'll do is, every time when we see some Alan or October 13, like a pair, we can use there are two options for you. Okay, I'll write down this option for you. So now let's say for Alan, so for the name record over here, there are two ways you can solve this programmatically. Either you can use tuple, which I will show you. Tuple is one option there, or you can just create a new class yourself. You can call that maybe pair. If you make a pair class, you can say name is one attribute and also value is another attribute, right? That's one option, that's the other option. Let me show you the tuple option. That's easier. You don't have to create an extra class. The tuple are just an aside. I also got some test case for you, very easy. I'll just show it to you very quickly. Tuple is really easy. You don't have to worry too much. Let's go to the same cluster here. If you go there, test iterator. So there is a single test I wrote. Very easy. First of all, you can see that in the local variable there, you have t is of type tuple. And for tuple, it's just basically like a sequence of types. So in this case, I say each tuple has two elements in there. The first one is a string, and the second one is an integer. In some way, tuple is like an array, but the difference is in each array, all the elements type must be the same. But in the tuple, it can be different. Okay, you can see its advantage. So now, let's say we can say t is assigned to just Alan is 65. So Alan there matches string type, and 65 matches the integer type, right? That's very easy to use. After this, you can do, we have some feature called count, just like array. We can say item, now the indices, like I for array, start with 1. Okay, you can check them. Okay, that's how you use tuple, very easy. Okay, hopefully I can let you practice in lab number 3. Okay, now let's go back to the slides. So now we say that we're going to have an iterable for the generic book. And each item that we're going to iterate through is going to be a combination of the names and also the record. Okay? So we got over here, I will show you what we should do. So now, for the new cursor here, it's going to be an iteration cursor with a tuple, right? Okay? You can see this type over here. This type over here is just consistent with this type over here at the header. Okay, over here, they're consistent. Okay, now we declare. So now the new cursor is no longer trivial to implement. The way we implement this is we're going to show you this definition here in just in the next slides. Now pretend that we have already created a new class. It's called my iteration cursor. My means we're going to do it by ourselves. Okay, my iteration cursor. And then we're going to create the iteration cursor, and then result will be assigned just the cursor itself. But now the critical thing is, how do we define this class here? That's the critical bit, right? First of all, the way we make my iteration cursor objects is we pass the attributes names and records. So these are the two arrays we would like to iterate through in parallel. So that's why we make these two as the starting points for the my iteration cursor. Okay? You will see the definition in the next slides. And after this, we're done. So now the only thing that's left is how we implement my iteration cursor. You can see now in the unlucky case, we can no longer say array.NewCursor or linklist.NewCursor. We got to create a cursor class ourselves. But it's not too bad. This is how we create it. So let's say we have a class called my iteration cursor, okay? And then is going to somehow inherit from iteration cursor. Okay, that's what we do. And then the constructor there is going to take some array, two arrays basically, right? That's just from the previous slides. You got the names and also you got the records. I leave this for you to practice. Okay? Now, I'll give you some hints how you can practice the rest. Okay? For information hiding, we're going to somehow have the two arrays, names and records, hidden, and we have going to have some integer position. Okay? I'm going to draw some diagram to you in just a moment. So the three features we have to support, one is called item, the other one is called after, and then fourth. So these are the three features we have to support. Okay? How do we support them? I'll draw some diagram and give you hints. Okay, over here. Actually, you can just reuse this one here. Okay? If you can look at here, iteration cursor. So now what we have done is, rather than iteration cursor, we have my iteration cursor. And my iteration cursor has access to the names and records, right? That's what we have seen. Now, how do we support these three features, item, fourth, and after? Okay, so the trick, this is a trick. I'm going to add one more attribute, as you saw over there. It's called I. I is an integer. It tells me where I am currently for the cursor. So let's say I might start with maybe 1, which means this is where I is. It's pointing to the first elements in the array. So that means when I is equal to 1, that means we are considering this particular pair. When I is equal to 2, in that case, we're considering this particular pair. You're just going to increment I one by one. Okay? That's the ideas. Okay, you have to really think very hard about how you can implement this, right? That will be a very good preparation for your lab number 3. Okay? Maybe I can give you a little bit more hints on Monday, but you really got to struggle through this. And this can be a very good question for lab test 2, right?
So how is iteration cursor running with background? Is it like a for loop?
It's a little bit, yeah. So the way that the client uses it is by using like a cross or like a for loop, like a from until loop. And then every time when you try to move one position further, you just say the cursor.fourth, right? It's basically like a cursor that you did in 2031. Right? Starting with the leftmost position, move to the right by one position every time. Yeah. Okay. I want to show you one more thing on the client side. And then I will go through some slides quickly and then we are done. Okay. Okay, you can see that over here. Let's just go back to the client side. Go back to the shop. You see, this is what I had before for the client using the from until loop. I'm going to show you an alternative. We can use, this one should seem familiar to you. I have seen quite a few of you already using this, which is good. Across. So now, what we used to have is some interval, 1 dot dot, some number, right? That's what we used to do. So now, as long as, so this part over here, we can put anything that is iterable. So now we can simply put card. And as, let me just, to really show you the contrast, as cursor. So that means we're going to create a cursor that is going to point to each item in the card. Okay? And then we can say loop. Okay? We can say loop. Result is assigned to, I'll just copy this code here. And that's it. That's all you got to do. So the good thing about across is it's going to call the fourth feature for you under the hood. You don't have to do it. It's pretty much like when you did the across all, across sum, you never had to say the I over there, that fourth, right? You never had to. It just did it for you. It just did it for you under the hood. Okay. Do play around with the code. I think that'll be useful. Okay. So far we're talking about supplier, we're talking about clients. I want to show you just a few more slides, and then you can read the rest. Okay, so some exercises for you. You don't necessarily have to do that in full detail, but at least have some idea how to do them. Okay. Okay, so now Iterator Pattern. So we're just going to go over some client side. I will talk about the code to interface, not to implementation, maybe in the beginning of Monday. Okay, just to recap the Iterator Pattern. I want to show you some more thing over here. So nothing will be quite new to you. You can see we can use across. So now collection can just be an iterable of integer, for example. Anything that's iterable, you can across it. Okay? So you can see across collection is some cursor and the cursor.item. You can see over here we don't use cursor.fourth. It's been called for you. Okay, and then you can actually go over the rest. I think all the examples are self-explanatory. Okay, let me just tell you what's going to happen next week. So remember lab number 2 is still Monday noon, right? Just make sure you submit in time. I will open the submission start on Friday, okay? And then I'm going to release lab number 3 on Wednesday. So we start doing that, and then you should really practice on the iterator pattern before I release the lab. Okay, I'll see you next week.